Started. So the easiest question of the day, like I'm sure you've answered a bunch of times. Can you just tell me your first and last name and how to spell it, as well as your title?
Yes, Cameron Sexton, Cameron Sexton, Speaker of Tennessee.
Perfect. So first of all, can you explain a little bit about the slate of bills that were announced yesterday to the residents who just don't know exactly what they do?
Yes, so the immigration package put forth by the House and Senate yesterday is to enforce the laws that are on the book, protect legal immigration in our state, and also protect taxpayers' dollars through a variety of means. We think it's common sense legislation, meaning public benefits should go to those who are here legally and lawfully, not those who are illegal. We think that that's just common sense. We think it's also common sense to treat the public, meaning the state government and local government, like private business. So therefore, we're mandating that all state and local government jobs have to go through e-verify, and you e-verify every new hire. If they're here legally and lawfully, you can hire them. If they're not, then obviously you cannot. We also want to have different reporting mechanisms in place to better understand how much illegal immigration we have in our state and what the cost is, whether that's prison, whether that's hospitals, whether that's education. It's better to have a conversation about real data than assuming what that data looks like. We also want to protect our public safety roads in our state. And so right now, we check legal status on people to get a driver's license in our state, but we do not check legal status for car registration. It doesn't make sense. So we want to align both of those together and say if you aren't here legally and lawfully, then obviously you're not going to register a car in our state. We do place in some parts of our code in some of these bills that if we do find that you're unverified, then that agency has to automatically turn you over to ICE so that they know that you are here. And so we think it's common sense. We think that it's a great direction for us to move and put us on the forefront of preserving the immigrant communities who are interstate and the individuals who did it correctly and not prioritizing those who did it incorrectly and illegally and undermining what those who came in the right way did.
Exactly. And what are some things that would now require verification process with these new bills who are taking into effect?
Yeah, so verification, legal status verification beyond all public benefits, whether that's a TennCare recipient, public housing, anything like that. As far as car registration tags, would require legal verification. Professional licenses would require legal status verification. Also, reciprocal. What we've seen in other states, like California, is they allow illegals to get CDLs or get professional licenses. Well, if we're a reciprocal state with California and they don't check legal status, then to get that professional license in Tennessee, we're going to check your legal status to make sure that you are here. So professional licenses would be another one. Reciprocal professional licenses would be one. And then we're also going to put a stop to the CDLs with illegals. If they're coming into our state, we're setting up a whole different process to hold those individuals and those businesses accountable in our state to try to protect our citizens.
And a big thing in support of this bill that's been made is the importance of saving taxpayer dollars. You talk about how these bills, I'm sorry, would save taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, so all these are estimates. And so this is what we're hoping to get a report to have a better understanding. What some associations are saying is that illegal immigration in Tennessee brings in 300 and some odd $1 million of revenue to our state. But we also know on the flip side is roughly $950 million is what the state incurs in costs to handle illegal immigration. So we're upside down $600 to $700 million. And so if you look at what's happening in Minnesota as an example, because they don't have the legal status verification in their public benefits, all of a sudden you had all these illegals who figured out a scheme that went in and they defrauded the state and the federal government to the tune of $1 billion. And so we're trying to put in safeguards so that doesn't happen. That's how you protect taxpayers' money. You put in safeguards to allow those who are here legally and lawfully to benefit from public benefits so that they have it, not an illegal has it. And so that's how we're going to protect taxpayers' dollars, as well as try to bring down what those costs are and what our costs are, which is to the tune of an extra $700 million that's costing the state.
Exactly. And what would be your response to the concerns, well, the argument that this pathway to citizenship should be the priority?
Well, that's not a state issue, and so that's a federal issue. All we can do is try to control illegal immigration and what's happening in our state. Look, if Congress and the President of the United States want to work on that issue, They can do it. They have the capability of doing that. In the state, we don't have that way. I think most people don't agree with a pathway to citizenship for those who are here legally. I think there's other mechanisms that they can get to. But that's a conversation for the federal government and the state. We're just trying to control it to where we can protect our resources, protect the benefits for those who truly are here legally and lawfully, and lower what those costs are to taxpayers so that we have that $700 million that we can invest in education and roads and healthcare and other things and address affordability in our state, because that's where that money is going, and it's not going to those things that we really need to talk about.
And lastly, is there anything you want to get out there that we haven't asked, we haven't talked about already about what these slated bills would do for this Tennesseans?
Well, look, what I'll say again is, look, I think this is a common sense, realistic approach to how to handle illegal immigration. All we're saying is if you're here legally and lawfully, then that's great. Everything should apply to you. If you're not, then you should not take precedence or even have the capability of those who did it correctly. We want to protect the legal immigration system and be a part of the immigrant community. But in a person who broke the law to come into our country legally and ended up in the state of Tennessee, and you allow them to have the same ability as those who did it legally, you're undermining their path and what took them 2 to 3 years to be able to achieve their success. And so you're limiting them, and they turn around and say, I did it the right way, but they didn't, and you're treating them better than you're treating me. And that's not what we want to do in the state of Tennessee. We don't want to be Minnesota, New York, or California.
Thank you so much for your time, my friend.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks. You too.
Mobile operator.
Yeah, I see it.
I have a photographer just pulling over here in a second, and we get to get this show on the road. But while we wait, can you just answer the easy question today? Can you just tell me your first and last name and how to spell it, as well as your title?
Yeah, John Ray Clemens, JohnRayClemons, State Representative, District 55, Nashville, Chairman, Tennessee House Democratic Caucus.
Perfect. So first of all, can you tell me a little bit about your reactions to the slate of bills being announced the other day?
Well, it's really shocking that the Republicans are not prioritizing the issues affecting every Tennessee family. Tennessee families are facing skyrocketing costs, increased health insurance premiums. We have terrible roads. Our schools badly need resources, and yet Republican Party has decided to prioritize illegal immigration at the request of Stephen Miller in Washington, D.C. Whereas Republicans are getting their agenda straight from the worst of the worst in the swamp, Democrats are pulling our agenda straight from the concerns of Tennessee families.
And the biggest concerns I've heard is about how these slated bills would hurt those who are already most vulnerable, getting access to simple things like grocery benefits, care. You talk about how these bills could potentially hurt those who are already in a bad spot.
Well, the people that they're targeting can't get access to care. That's against the law, so they're really duplicating federal law in some ways and ignoring federal law in others. What they're doing is trying to create a surveillance state where any Tennessean, regardless of color or ethnicity, could be pulled over and requested to show identification and verification of their citizenship. That is a surveillance state that could impact every Tennessean, and that's exactly what some of their legislation is doing. And again, they're not trying to address the real problem, which is immigration. Our immigration system is broken, and the people in Washington, D.C. should be fixing our immigration system. Our U.S. senators, Marsha Blackburn, Bill Hagerty, our U.S. congressmen, are failing to do the work necessary to fix a broken immigration system. So instead, the White House is having state legislatures like ours target vulnerable people and immigrants. And that is inherently unfair, and it's a dereliction of their duty as elected officials.
And you talked a bit about it a little bit about the real solution is fixing what you call a broken immigration system.
Yeah.
What would be some ways you think we can get to this point to where the system's working like a well-oiled machine?
Well, the immigration system is broken. As you recall, President George W. Bush tried to fix it, and Republicans killed their own president's plans and proposals. President Obama tried to fix it, and Republicans opposed that. Marsha Blackburn has been in Washington, D.C. for a quarter of a century, and she has never lifted a finger to fix a broken immigration system. So instead of fixing immigration, the system itself, they're targeting immigrants. They're targeting people at the state level. That is completely wrong, and it's not doing anyone any good, and it's ultimately going to result in a surveillance state in the state of Tennessee that impacts and threatens the privacy of every Tennessean, not to mention unfairly and illegally discriminating against people because of the color of their skin.
Exactly. And lastly, is there anything about these slated bills that you want to get out there to the people watching at home that they don't necessarily explaining something that they don't necessarily understand, or just some points out there that may have not been exactly on point?
Yeah, I think it's important for the people of Tennessee to realize that the Republicans' priority is not addressing immigration, it's targeting immigrants, targeting people. And it's unfair that that's their priority this year when Tennessee families are facing skyrocketing cost, increased cost of living. Roads are in worse shape than they've ever been. Our schools badly need more resources. Our law enforcement officials badly need more resources. So instead of addressing those issues that are affecting Tennesseans every single day, they're deciding to play this political game and carry the water for Stephen Miller and the White House targeting vulnerable populations.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, pleasure talking to you. Take care.
You take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks.
Bye.